Hey y'all! Welcome back, ladies, gentlemen, those betwixt and beyond. I'm so glad for you to be here with me today. It's been really hard lately. Work has been really difficult, so don't mind if I just start drinking some wine at 7 in the afternoon. I haven't really had a chance to write a whole lot of scripts or shoot anything. Actually, it's not true. I have a couple of scripts written and I will be hopefully posting those in the next couple of weeks to do with coming out and the experience of self-realization and identity. But for now, I have mentioned in other videos that I live with my parents, and it seems like a lot of people are in a very similar boat when it comes to stuff like that. So I kind of want to talk about surviving that experience and how to move past it and how to cope with a lot of the things that happen. Let's just start with the experience of living at home. Because a lot of our parents probably didn't. They were probably kicked out at 18 or 19, and they had full-time jobs, and life was easier for them in the way that the economy wasn't so messed up, and that you can't pay for a home or for rent with a minimum wage job. So a lot of people who don't understand how to make ends meet a lot of the times end up grouping together, or either rooming together or living with their parents. And I was one of them. I was somebody who thought that they were very much going to be homeless and terrified of that perspective, especially because my family was kind of the only friends that I had ever had as a kid. So especially with being a queer kid coming back home as a 22-year-old and living with parents that I hadn't spent a significant amount of time with since, probably 5 years now. It was difficult. There were a lot of challenges. And I want to help people who are living through that same experience or may experience it in the future, or may have just gotten out of it. So this is my kind of survival guide to living with parents as a queer person, as an adult. As not everything that your parents wanted you to be. So forgive me if I get a little choked up. It's been a kind of a rough week. To begin with, we need to kind of talk about the elephant in the room. Now, what is the elephant in the room? You will quickly realize you are the elephant in the room. Everything you do, from doing the dishes, to eating food, to shooting videos in your free time, will become a part of discussion about you, not to you. And you have to kind of cope with that. Because the thing about living with an elephant is eventually you forget the elephant's there. If the elephant can be quiet enough, cannot eat so much food, cannot make a mess, even cleans up after itself, people are okay with living with an elephant. It's when an elephant stops being perfect and stops making themselves the smallest thing in the room despite being the biggest. That's when people think the elephant, is the problem. You're going to have the experience of your family bonding over you. Not spending time with you, not loving you or getting to know you, but dealing with you, tolerating your outbursts, your feelings, your every thought and idea. They all have knowing looks towards each other when you say something that perhaps you're passionate about, or perhaps they feel that you don't have the right answer to. As a queer person, this happens quite a bit, especially when your parents still have a shrine to you in their living room. Well, to who they want you to be in their living room. So you kind of get used to it. My advice for this part of things is to make yourself as small as possible, consume as little as possible. I was really lucky. I got a job that was in the afternoons, so really all I had to do was get breakfast food from home, and sometimes I would even buy that myself to just not make a problem. Get breakfast food from home, maybe just eat leftovers for lunch, and then go to work in the evenings. And luckily my work, we would cook for the people we took care of, and then we would eat with them. So supper is kind of taken care of, and my parents work during the day, so I have complete free time during the mornings to kind of live alone and not have to constantly interact with roommates, family, because that can be hard, especially for a queer person with a family that hasn't quite accepted their existence or position on their own life, on their choices that they're making. So make yourself small. Don't take up too much space. Don't be too ostentatious. One of the things that happened a lot was when I would be shooting for videos, I'd dress up a little bit, I'd put on a little makeup, look nice, wear something cute. And I would come upstairs, whether it was on a weekend or something, and I would have to get used to the idea of not making conversation until I was changed, until I was decent. And that was a really difficult thing to kind of deal with, is to not have your parents look you in the eye when you are, feeling and looking your best. So that's something that may happen to you, and it sucks. But unfortunately, it's kind of the piece of surviving through it. So make yourself small. Don't eat too much. Don't consume. Don't try to make problems. As much as you can, be away. I spent a lot of time with friends. I don't have an immense amount of them in my real life, but the ones that I have, I try to make plans with for most of my free time, because, and I realized this just now, that I just hated being home, and I hated having all that free time, but none of the motivation or energy to do anything about it, because of the atmosphere and because of the hard work that I was doing, day in and day out. So find outlets and ways to get away, and places that are safe. Libraries are really good, and they're usually open pretty late, so if you have an afternoon off, you can just spend your time at the library. Plus books are great. Coffee shops are always good. My other advice, and I'll probably put this in another video about being a trans kid, but when your parents do something particularly mean or disheartening or cruel, I would recommend that you do the dishes. I know, that's a weird thing to say. I immediately had a little bit of I don't like that, but when somebody is not showing you what family means, you have to show them. I had somebody tell me that family is just you tolerating others tolerating you, and I was very upset by that notion. I don't view my family that way, and I definitely don't view the family that I make and that I connect with and that I build myself that way. And it was very upsetting to hear from a family member that perspective. So that's kind of the thing. And I say dishes because dishes are usually something that nobody really loves doing. I do like doing dishes, but like it's a sacrifice. It's you taking your time, your energy, your motivation, or whatever, and doing something nice for other people. And you can do that with lots of things, you know, doing their laundry. And I don't want you to become the live-in maid, because that's a big thing that you can kind of slide into when you're just trying to appease and exist in a space. But there are ways to just make a difference in somebody's days and to show them that you care about them. And my family kind of works through this service love kind of transactional kind of love thing. So it worked really well. And I think that's another thing, is learning what your parents' love language is and trying to express that in the clearest way that you could. And also with siblings, of course, you want them to know that you care and that you support them and everything. But I think the other thing is that you have to at once think that you're never going to leave, or never going to have to leave them, and that it could happen at any day. And I know that's kind of sad, and it sucks quite a bit, but it's the reality. One bad fight, one particularly heinous action, you're kind of on unstable ground whenever you're in a space that you're tolerated rather than celebrated. So it's uncomfortable, and it's something that you kind of have to deal with daily, to know that, like, or to feel like everybody might be happier if you weren't there. The secret is, and like I said, people bond over you. The secret is, if you're not there, they would be at each other's throats. And parts of them know that, but parts of them love having you as a scapegoat. So just keep that in mind when you're kind of thinking about this. It's not that things would be easier without you, it's that they think that things would go back to normal or would be just as good as things are. So that's a feeling that you're going to feel, and you're going to have to kind of work your way through, cope with. I recommend therapy. I also recommend constantly talking to the people that love you and support you about finding a new place. Right away when I moved in, I wasn't thinking about that a whole lot, but about 3 or 4 months in, I was like, okay, I need to start looking for my own place. I need to make sure that I have a backup option, because you have to plan for the unthinkable and the inevitable, unfortunately. So always have a plan, have a great support system, reach out to people either on Twitter or Facebook, Discords, or, you know, think about the people that are just in your life. I was very lucky to get connected with a community college's play, and then get connected with the theater scene and a lot of the theater people. So I think that's something that you really need to think about and try to address. So you don't want to be home, you don't want to eat too much, you don't want to make any scenes, you don't want to pick fights. Always be looking for a new place, always be trying to spend time with other people and make connections with other people. But also try your best to connect. I know it may be really hard. You might be opposite ends of the spectrum. One of your parents might be a Trump supporter, and you might be something else, opposed, of course. Or maybe, you know, they don't accept you as your queer identity, or maybe you just have always had issues with them, or your delinquency or your relationship is always something that's in question. So it's about trying to find things that you can talk about, things that aren't going to cause any issues, that you can connect on, and maybe even feel and understand each other about, you know? I think I think there's an element of that in my like renewed interest in watching football on Sundays and stuff. I didn't necessarily think that that would be something fun for me, but it was something that my family was doing, so we connect through experience, through watching movies, through being together, so that was how we did it. And you need to find that particular thing for your family. Maybe it's going for walks, maybe it's working out, yoga, reading, maybe you need to hand off a really good book to your mom or something. So try to discover what's the best way to communicate with the people who are around you. And finally, I think this is the most important lesson, is to remember you don't need them. I know it's really hard to think about, and it's really difficult, especially when you're in a position of need, of ignorance, of depression, of despair. It's really nice to have that safety net. But if you've cultivated some good friendships and relationships, if you've been a good person to people, if you believe in the goodness in others and people like you enough, you'll land. Maybe not on your feet, maybe with some skinned knees and some broken bones, but you won't be splattered. You won't be dead, even if you wanted to be. I recently had a spat with my family and had to move out. And I'm not going to go into that fight or what kind of transpired or anything, but I'm okay. I'm staying with friends. I'm moving into a new place. This is maybe the new setup that I'll use. I don't know. This is kind of a rushed production because I haven't produced anything since my intro video. But I want all of you to know that there are other people. That family isn't just who you were born with, but it was who you choose. There's this line that always gets brought up when you're talking about family with people who have good ones, that blood is thicker than water. And it's right. It's scientifically correct, and it's also the quote, but it doesn't get the whole quote. The quote actually is the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. So the people that you choose to be in covenant with is more powerful, it's thicker than the person that gave birth to you. So choose your family wisely. You have that option. That's such an empowering thing. And I think it's something that a lot of queer people learn early on, but I think everybody needs to understand that about themselves. And I'm just gonna kind of leave you with the first time they tell you not to come back, don't. They're not going to change their mind. They're not going to come to their senses. They said it because they mean it somewhere deep down. And you don't want to be in a place where somebody could say that to you whenever they want, whenever they felt like it. That's not healthy or stable for anybody. So, this is my advice. And if you have other advice for dealing with parents, put in the comments. I'm not okay, but I should be in a little bit. And I just wanted to update everybody because I feel bad and I don't want to anymore. I hope that this will start a new schedule for me and maybe putting out videos on a more regular basis. I'm not going to edit anything in this. This is going to be really long and bad, and the lighting is just, it's what it is. So, if anybody tells you to get out, to stay out, to never come back, don't. You deserve better. Stay wonderful, y'all.